guest up, and I'm going to bring up the Captain's Quadrant, Section 31 and a half, to introduce him to you.
Hey, everybody in Long Island. What's going on? Anybody from Jersey? All right, me too. They kicked me out of New York, so that's what I got to do.
So before we bring our guest of honor out on stage, I have to tell you, Mr. Robinson is refusing to answer any questions about Star Trek. They all have to be about his role in Child's Play 3. So I hope you're prepared.
All right.
Is this mic on?
There we go. So we figured out something. Technology. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great honor and great pleasure to introduce Mr. Andrew Robinson.
Man, what a house!
Yeah, well, for you.
You know, my career has consisted of, and it's not a joke. Most of my career has been in small theaters with audiences much smaller than this. So this to me is like playing Lincoln Center or something. So thank you. It's great for an old ego.
Yeah. All right, thanks for coming. Do we want to stand or do we want to sit?
Yeah, you guys sit. Take your load up. Joe and Jason. I know what old age is like.
Yeah.
I need to.
If I feel like
Andrew Robinson just burned us.
Yeah, he did. That's amazing. That's fine. I feel like I made it already. So good night. Thank you. No. All right.
Well, let's get started. I have kind of an unusual question to begin with, and that's because many years ago I saw Stan Lee on stage. And somebody asked Stan...
You saw who on stage?
Stan Lee, the creator of Spider-Man and Thor.
Oh, Stan Lee. I thought you said Stanley. Who the hell is Stanley?
Hey, you don't know Stanley? It's right there. Stanley.
I just joined the Spider-Verse.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
What?
I just finished this this miniseries for Prime with Nick Cage.
Are you in Spider-Man 4?
Yeah.
Oh, my God! Look at that. Great news, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
Finish your thing. I interrupted you.
No, that was worth interrupting.
No, that was worth it. We got to
Any
pop.
thoughts you have are totally worth interrupting.
Yeah. Go. So you go for it, and we'll ask questions later.
Right. It was great because it was a great character because I play this guy, and this Spider-Verse takes place in the 30s, and Nick Cage is a gumshoe, like Phil Marlowe, one of those characters, and so we were all in World War I together. And so he got bit by a spider, and I got bit by some other goddamn thing. And he became Spider-Man, and I became this guy who is, as the show is being shot, who is my age, 83, but who's really 36. And so he has this mad, scientist mother who's trying to get him to come back to being 36 again. But it was wonderful because actually it was typecasting. Because I really do feel like a 36-year-old in an 83-year-old body. So tell my body that. Anyway.
So I don't even remember what I was going to ask. Yes, I do. So somebody asked Stan Lee, what's the question you wish everybody would ask you? And he said, nobody's ever asked me, Stan Lee, how are you? So Andrew Robinson, how are you?
Ooh.
We're going to get
right.
weird.
Listen, I made a solemn vow. I get on a stage, any stage, I'm going to tell the truth. So I'm not going to bullshit you. Life has been interesting lately because my wife of close to 56 years is really ill, and I've been her caretaker.
Wow.
And that's not, it's cool. It's okay. It's okay because it's been going on for a few years now, and so one learns to live with that, which I'm sure there's probably not very many people in this room who can't relate to this. Caretaking and so forth and what that means. So my life has been real, and it's like I'm learning a whole new way of being Andy Robinson. And the fact that I'm able to come here this weekend is a gift, because occasionally I do have to get away, just to sort of like get my head cleared and so forth. But it's, and I'm grateful to you because you've all shown me a lot of kindness. Besides, being Garak fans or whatever kind of fan you are, you've been kind to me. And I'm understanding a whole new dimension of what kindness means. And we're so in need of that kind of kindness these days. Really am. And we really are. Anyway, so there's how I am.
Awesome.
Well, we're kind to you because we love you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I got to start off. Any lower deckers out here? I got to hit you with that one right
I've
away.
done a couple of upper deckers in my college days.
No. Hopefully not here because I don't want to pay for it.
I have no comment.
I've got to ask you, I understand that the character of Garak was ambiguous, but you really wanted to take it in a different direction. And I thought it would have been groundbreaking if you were able to do so. So I've got to ask you, do you feel vindicated that they've taken you into an alternate universe and Bashir and Garak were married?
Oh, it's like that's hilarious. But the thing is that I never wanted to take it in a different direction. It was my choice of how, when you're an actor, it's your choice how you play a role. You say the lines, you put on the makeup because that's written, the script is written and so forth. But what goes on inside that's me. And the thing is about acting is that you have to have an internal action to make something alive. You can be the prettiest mother jumper on earth. And if there's no life inside of you, it's dull. And so with Garak, Garak was a gift because Garak was nothing but secrets. And Garak was nothing but his own hidden agenda. And of course, so as I said, and those of you who were here yesterday, it's like I didn't set out to become some kind of, gay icon at all. Nobody does.
If you don't mind, can you stand up really quick? Yeah, I'm singling you out, I'm sorry.
Right.
Friend of Garak.
That's it.
I absolutely love that shirt.
But the thing is, I've always known that you can love anybody that you love.
Absolutely.
And there's no law against that unless you're in some idiot country. Don't get me started on that one.
Yeah.
So as I said, when I first saw Sid is like, I said this yesterday, one of the most beautiful human beings I've ever seen in my life. And I thought, yeah, this is a great thing. This is really a gift. It's not that I'm just trying to shake him down for information from the Federation and that bullshit, because I know nothing about that. But if I want to get close to this guy because I love him, that is a really great way to make the relationship. And it was a smart move too, because as far as I knew, this was the only episode that I was in. And then when they saw that there was a chemistry, and Sid picked up on it like that, because he's one of the brightest human beings ever. The relationship, the chemistry between us, and the writers saw that, and they're no fools, and they brought me back.
Which it ended up being one of the greatest reoccurring characters in Star Trek history.
Well, as
far as I'm concerned.
I say this often and a lot, but Garak was a gift from the acting gods. He really was. And it was a gift that changed my life because I'd never stood in front of audiences before. Somebody came today and they were at the very first convention I ever did in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, in 1994, I think, 95, and Jimmy Doolan was the headliner, and I'd never done anything like that in my life, where I met the people, the fans who have supported me over the years. And it always blows my mind. I never take it for granted, when I come to a convention like this. And I'm always grateful for the support. And I mean that because it's like, without you, I'd still be working downtown New York in really funky experimental theater for 8 or 10 people who would come up, anyway. So you mentioned that
your interpretation was that Garak was in love with Bashir. My interpretation, whenever I first saw it, was, that Garak wants to boink Bashir, and it was just lust.
What's the difference?
Quite a bit, considering some of the relationships I've had. Quite a bit.
That's no.
But
man.
I read your book.
He
Which,
reads.
incidentally,
It's true.
A Stitch in Time. If you have not read it, you should read it because it's a very, very good book. And the book is framed as a letter to Dr. Bashir. And about 3/4 of the way through it, I thought, wow, this is a really long letter to write to somebody. So my question
It's a series of letters, for Christ's sake.
My question to you is, do you think it was lust at first and then turned into a genuine affection? Like, I wish I could make a life with this person?
I've never been able to tell the difference. I mean it. Any woman, and it's mainly been women, that I've wanted to go to bed with, I've fallen in love with.
Nice.
And that's been a problem. Because sometimes, and most times it doesn't work out.
Yeah.
And then, you have to, negotiate your way out of that.
It's so funny that you say that because that happens to Garak in your book as well. That it's like love is his Achilles heel.
That's right. And of course it is. From the beginning. From the beginning with Paladine. And there's no question.
All right, so I've got to steer just a little bit because I'm a Hellraiser fan. I want you to know that's the first horror movie that scared the crap out of me with the line, Jesus wept.
Jesus wept. One of my favorite ad-libs.
Oh my God, and that was my question. Was that in the script or did you was ad-lib?
No, God bless Clive Barker, who was one of the most brilliant people I've ever met. Really amazing man. And it was the first film he directed, and he was very humble and modest. I mean, he wrote the thing, he knew what he wanted, but he never got in the way of the actors. And so, whenever I came up with an ad-lib, and I came up with several in that movie, several, so much for the cat and mouse shit, and come to daddy, which, that is so good. It's so creepy. And all of that. And so when it came time for that final thing where,
Pithead had you all
apart, the script said, fuck you. And I thought, that's so boring.
Oh.
So you have this incredible moment, and fuck you. I mean, please, that's so silly. And so he says, well, all right, Andy, so do you have another idea? And I said, yeah, shoot it. I'll tell you what it is. So he shot it, and I said Jesus wept, and people went nutty. And I had no idea this was going to become a thing.
Oh my God, it's a great thing because that's become my mother has MS, and when she used to have her moments, she would always go, Jesus wept. And I was and so just so you know, my mom put me on to Hellraiser when I was like 6. So you were my babysitter in a way. Thank you.
That explains so much.
Come on the show, you'll learn.
Say that a lot.
Well, it was not Hellraiser that scared the hell out of me whenever I was a kid. It was Scorpio from Dirty Harry. You traumatized me. I'm just going to straight out put it out there. I did not want to get on a school bus for
I don't blame you. That was awful. And what they made me do to those kids.
I know.
Yeah.
I mean, it was awful. They just picked up these kids randomly. They weren't actors. No one prepared them.
Oh my God.
Hey kid, you want to be in a movie?
Hey kid, you want to be in a movie?
Wow.
Oh yeah, sure, okay. And so they put these kids, and I mean it, they put these innocent little kids into a school bus, this tin can with this insane person. And then they shot the entire thing. We're going back and forth over the Golden Gate Bridge, back and forth, and we're shooting all day. And these kids were terrified. And I went up to the director and I said, come on, man, I can't do this anymore. And he says, no, you're going to have to. We got to get this scene. And then the row your boat, and old MacDonald had a farm, and don't you cry, and all that shit. It was awful. I really
But it worked so well.
I wanted to quit acting after that day.
Wow, glad you didn't.
It's funny you said that because I was actually going to ask, do you think that changed the perception of you as an actor from that
Are
point
you
on?
kidding me?
I know, it's a dumb question, I'm sorry.
I know. Jason, it defined me as an actor for many, many years.
Yeah.
I mean, it really did. I mean, it's like, I thought, oh, great. I saw the movie and I thought, oh, that's really cool. I did a good job. I played a crazy guy and he really looks crazy and so forth. And then, I didn't work for a year. And the next time I worked was Don Siegel, who directed Dirty Harry, directed this other film, lovely film called Charlie Barrett. And that was that's the next time I worked. Other than that, I mean, there was one time, God, this is such a weird thing. There was this woman, and a really nice woman. Her name is Barbara Miller, and she was the head of casting at Warner Brothers. And so after Dirty Harry came out, I came out to L.A. I was living in New York, and I thought, okay, I guess maybe I have a career, in film. Great. Maybe I'll be a movie star. And so I drive the car to the Warner Brothers lot, and I park it, and I walk up the path, the sidewalk to the casting office, and I go in, and I say, hi, I'm Andy Robinson. I'm here to see Barbara Miller. And the woman looks at me and she says, I'm so sorry. Barbara Miller is really, something happened, and I can't remember what she said, but she can't see you today. And I go, why not? And she says, I'm sorry, she just can't see you. And I said, okay. That was sort of a pain in the ass. So years later, I'm at this party, and this woman comes up to me and she says, hi, I'm Barbara Miller, and I have to tell you that, do you remember the time when you came to my office for an interview? And I said, yes, I do remember that. She said, well, I couldn't see you because I looked out the window and I saw you walking up, the sidewalk, and I asked my assistant, who is that guy? And she said, well, that's your next appointment, Andy Robinson. She said, I don't want to see him.
Oh.
Don't let him in here. And basically, that's how people treated me. People would walk across the street when I would be on the sidewalk in New York.
Oh, God.
Or else there would be some weird guy who would come up to me and recite verbatim Clint Eastwood's line about, do you feel lucky, punk?
You must love that.
And I'm thinking, what the hell is going on? And it killed me. It absolutely killed me. And it got to the point where the only roles I could get were, I was sort of like the asshole of the week in the 70s for, network television.
That's what you called me on the podcast.
All of these weird psychos and bad guys and so forth. And I quit the business, in the late 80s because I thought, this is not what I signed up for. I have one life and I'm going to play these roles, and they were all badly written. I mean, they weren't nearly as effective as, say, the character in Dirty Harry. So I quit. I quit for about 4 or 5 years, and then got over that, came back, and by then, sort of people had forgotten that, But it was, yeah.
And what you're describing kind of sounds like when you go for a job interview and they tell you you're overqualified.
Well, that's exactly right. Exactly right.
Yeah.
Can I ask you real quick, what brought you back to the industry?
All right. This always theater. Because, the thing is that when theater was my first love, and that's why I was trained. And so it wasn't, so when films went south on me, I just went back to the theater. And so I came back to Los Angeles because I was offered a role. And this is the irony. This is how weird life works. The role I was offered was it was a character by the name of Jack Henry Abbott. It's a real guy who wrote a book called In the Belly of the Beast. Jack Henry Abbott was a murderer and who spent most of his life in solitary confinement. And he wrote this book through a correspondence with Norman Mailer, with letters. He wrote to Norman Mailer, and the guy was an amazing writer, but he was completely psycho. But his writing was so good, Mailer and a couple of other writers in New York said, listen, we got to get this guy out because he's a great talent. So they got him released. I don't know how they did it, because he spent He spent 25 years in prison. 15 of those years were in solitary confinement. So however crazy he was when he went in there, he was even crazier when he went out. They got him released. They brought him to New York. They put him in a halfway house. And the first thing he did when he went out in the street, he thought somebody was hassling him, and he had a kitchen knife and he killed him. And so basically, some people created this theater piece based on this guy. And this is what brought me back. The irony is so amazing, so delicious. And it brought me back to the business. It brought me back to playing all kinds of good stuff, playing this nutty guy. And this play was so popular, went all over the country, played in New York, we took it to Australia and so forth. It was like, and that's how I got back. By then, they weren't so, Dirty Harry and the Swartkill Killer were in the rear view mirror.
Yeah.
But it's not. No.
All right, well, I'm going to move it.
That's it.
So one of the wonderful things about your career is you also were the former director and master of fine arts at the University of California.
Yeah.
What was the shift like teaching as opposed to acting?
It's quite amazing. I never would have got this job if the dean of the School of Theater at USC wasn't a friend of mine.
Oh.
And she said, "Do you want to start a new acting program, a master's acting program?" And I said, "No, enough actors in the world." And then Irene, my wife, reminded me that the phone wasn't ringing off the hook,
And we need to eat, so
we need to eat. So, but it was. So I did it, and and it was. I'm so glad that I did, because it was a great experience.
yeah, I'm sure. And of course, one of the projects that you did during the pandemic was Sid City.
Yeah.
Is that still going on? Or,
No, as a matter of fact, I was thinking, somebody else mentioned it earlier today, and I've got to contact them and see if I'd like to get that going.
Yeah, that was a very fun series. I was watching that. Yeah. So can you tell us the genesis of that project? Because some people, does anybody know Sid City? Not so many. So
no, Sid City is Sid's basically his fan club, but it's a very active fan club. These people, they're engaged. They communicate with each other. They do things and whatever. And there used to be a time whenever I'd go to a convention, we'd have a Sid City gathering and whatever. And some of the people in the fan club wrote Trek stuff. And so we would read it and do it, and especially during the pandemic, it was something for us all to get involved with, instead of feeling sorry for ourselves.
Yeah. I gained so much weight.
I was actually going to say, I think one of my favorite moments from Alone Together was when there's some kind of crisis going on, and you let it slip that Garak and Dukat had a fling at one point. But
you said you like weird.
Yeah,
so.
Bashir cannot let it go. It's like there's stuff exploding, and he's like, yes, I need to do the shields, I need to do this, I need to fire the phasers, but you and Dukat?
Is that true?
Yeah.
Yes.
Because the idea is so repugnant to me.
Either that or I dreamed it up and I need serious therapy.
I don't know, Jason. Maybe, okay, all right.
So one of the things about Garak, probably the greatest couple of episodes of Deep Space Nine, the Diaz cast, and your interrogation of Odo.
Yeah.
How fun was that to mess with the late great
Rene Auberjonois.
Rene Auberjonois, yes.
Yeah, I loved Rene. Rene and I had worked together in New York. We had done a television. They used to have this thing called the Hollywood Television Theater, and we did an Arthur Miller play together, Incident at Vichy. We'd known each other for years. We were also jealous of each other. The way young actors are, we can behave like assholes like anybody else. But then, you know, when we found ourselves in the same show, I mean, so Rene was a consummate actor.
Yeah.
He was always going to do something that was going to surprise you. I mean, it was like, and if you'd ever seen, you know, his stage work was brilliant because he had a fluidity and a physicality that was quite gorgeous.
Yeah.
He was an amazing man. He really was.
Yeah, we miss him. Great.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've lost a few. We've lost Jimmy. We've lost, you know, and
Admiral Ross is no longer with us.
right. No, but it's what's Nog? Aaron, who is also a beautiful guy.
Yeah.
And one of the funniest guys on earth.
Really?
Oh, the man had a sharp wit.
Oh.
A sharp wit.
Yeah.
And he was so smart. Yeah.
What a shame. One more question, and then we're going to open up to the audience.
Yeah.
There is a microphone here, so we're going to, she's going to move that, and we're going to line up in the middle for your questions. But one of the things I wanted to ask you was, do you feel a
Lucky punk?
No, I wouldn't do that to you.
Joe, don't you dare.
I would
Don't
not,
you
I would
dare.
not. No, do you feel vindicated that you got Garak got the Romulans into the war, and probably one of the greatest episodes of
An
Deep
amazing
Space?
episode.
That was
And working with the great Avery Brooks.
absolutely.
Fucking great. And he was, nobody understands. Avery was not only a great actor, he was a great director.
Yeah.
And he and his stage work that he did a one-man show about Paul Robeson that was superb. I mean, he was one of a kind. I say was. He's still alive.
Yeah. He retired from acting, doesn't do conventions.
No, I don't know why. There may be health issues involved, but I don't know. I haven't, you know.
Yeah, whatever it is, but we wish him well. But again, do you feel Garak was absolutely right?
Every step of the way.
Absolutely.
Because even Cisco had to agree.
Yeah, that's true.
Grudgingly agree.
Yeah. And if I do it again, I would.
Right.
So I know we
What was
have
it?
a lot
All you
more
lost was a Roman senator, you know.
Yes.
A murderer and your own ego. Your own.
I can live with it.
And I can live with it. So we have a lot more questions we'd like to ask, but we know you guys are dying to ask Mr. Robinson some questions as well. So we have a hot mic up here next to your hot host.
I'm going to sit down there.
So,
Oh, good.
Oh, thank goodness! I'm getting so tired.
Oh, yeah.
I did not want to sit while Mr. Robinson stood.
Yeah, that wasn't good.
That was not going to be a good look on me.
Oh, my goodness. All right, what's your name?
Hi, my name's Karen. I asked you a question yesterday.
You did?
My question for today is, what is your opinion on the... Can you speak in the
I think,
Hold on. Really speak, when you speak in the mic, speak very closely.
Can I talk now?
Now you did, yep.
What is your opinion on the storyline of the relationship between Garak and Ziyal? Because I feel like I remember that they like kind of did that to kind of divert away from the relationship between Bashir and Garak. So I was just wondering what your opinions or any thoughts you had on that.
Between Garak and who?
Ziyal.
Oh, Ziyal. Listen, that was a misfire. That was one of the few misfires that the writers made. They were trying to give Garak a relationship, you know. I guess, I don't think it was because they were trying to get away from the gay stuff, you know. But it was so interesting. There was no way that was ever going to work. And they went through three really good actors.
Yeah, Melanie was in Seinfeld.
That's right.
Yeah.
And oh God, the other one I did a play with at the Yale Rep. Oh God, I can't remember her name. Anyways, yeah. So it was a misfire. They finally gave up on the idea, and I was really glad that they did because it was like it just never worked.
Even though they killed her off.
Yeah, well, they kill her off.
That was the give up.
Yeah, right. I know.
I always thought the age difference was really weird too, you know?
That doesn't bother me.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Great question.
That are going to leave other people not only destitute and without health care and without pensions, and without Social Security, but without fucking food, you know, and what that is going to do.
Right, yeah.
So, it really is. It's colored everything in my life.
Thank you.
Great question. Thank you.
Hi. So I have a question about the episode in the Pale Moonlight, which we talked about earlier, which I love. I think it's brilliant.
It is
Best
brilliant.
episode of Deep Space Nine, sorry.
Yeah, but my favorite is The Wire. But, you know.
Yes.
So good.
Yes.
So my question is for you. Towards the end of the episode, there's a scene where Avery comes in and he's absolutely furious at you, knocks you to the ground. Do you have any memories or stories from that day?
Oh no, I actually, because I loved working with Avery. You see, working with Avery was like it was like real acting. It was like a wrestling match. I mean, he was ferocious. He was a fierce actor, and you just pick up on that. And I think that's one of the reasons. I mean, the episode was written beautifully. It's a great episode. But I think it was because of what went on between the two of us that was equally, you know, attractive to people. Yeah, and you know, and it's like it's great. And then to pick myself up after being, you know, I mean, if I had really been hit as hard as that punch, I never would have gotten up. But to get up and give one of the great speeches that, you know, I mean, that was a thrill.
Was that you or a stuntman that got hit?
Oh, it was both of us.
Okay.
I remember a Cisco punch made Q run away.
That's right. It never came back. That punch is continuum powerful. Yeah.
The power of the punch. I'll tell you a story about Sylvester Stallone at some point, and the power of the punch. Anyway, yes.
Hi, I met you during the photo op. Thank you so much. My name's Christine.
Hi, Kristen.
Hi.
Just talking to the mic.
Yeah, my name's Christine. Ryan's Hope, of course. I said Ryan's Hope, and you went, "Oh my God, Ryan's Hope!" So that was great. And the other thing that I want to say is there has never been a character like Garak before or since. I don't think there ever will be. You played him brilliantly. Thank you for that. And the book, Stitch in Time, what a gift. Amazing.
And the audiobook is amazing.
Well, I want to know. Sorry, because that's part of my question. Go for it. Because, Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
you did all of the voices of your compatriots in this book, including some of the female voices, and I was amazed. So,
I'm glad you were, because I was scared.
great.
That's the thing I was scared about that. I was thinking, oh God, how do I do those voices? You know how I did Armin while holding my nose. So every time Armin came up, I would just hold my nose.
You know, it was effective because I honestly thought that was Armin whenever Quark spoke, and it took me a few minutes to realize, oh, that's not Armin at all. So you did a great job.
It was amazing. And thank you for wearing the Niner shirt. One of my favorite episodes, Take Me Out to the House.
And I'm so pissed off I wasn't in that. I'm probably the only one, maybe.
Did Garak go to the stands, or am I just making that up? No.
No. But I'm one of the few that could play baseball.
Really?
And they didn't.
Oh, yeah, from New York, so yeah.
Yeah,
That's our pastime,
absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Andrew Robinson could play baseball, but they all knew Garrick would cheat.
That's
One quick thing. With the lower decks, was any of that ad-libbed with you and Bashir? Because you aren't like me and my wife. It's amazing.
That was all scripted.
Jeez,
I love it. Here, shout out to the wife.
Thank you.
All right, I'll talk into the mic so it
Thank
works.
you.
So you talked already about your incredible role in Hellraiser and how iconic it is, and obviously we're all here talking about Garak. And I wanted to know if those two characters swapped places, and you had Uncle Frank, on Deep Space Nine, or Garak had to face against the Cenobites. Who do you think would fare best?
Oh my God!
What, you don't like fantasy football?
God, that's so weird. That's so weird. No, I have no idea. how to answer that. Does anybody have an answer to that? I'll take it.
I'm going to say Garak would probably poison the Cenobites because they got defeated by the box. He'd probably figure out the puzzle and send them back.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Garrick would get past the Cenobites.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you so much.
There you go.
Garak would be the last one standing, and he'd just be whistling innocently, like, I don't know what happened to them.
Hello, sir. How are you?
Hello.
My question is actually about your role in Liberace, because this is so far removed from the murderers and the Hellraiser. And well, Garak, I suppose we could argue about the flamboyance part of it, but how did you approach it? I mean, this is such a different, completely different type of role.
I'm so glad you said. I've always believed, and this is true. I always believed that Liberace and Garak were cousins. Those are the two roles that were closest, to each other. It was such a joy. It was such a joy to play Liberace. I loved Liberace. When I was a little kid, I used to, my mother would take me all I remember, I was a really little kid, and I was in this room with a small black and white television, and there would be all these women who were in the room, and I would be on the floor, and there would be his show, his weekly show. And then to end up playing it, and I actually got to wear the real costumes and the jewelry and so forth. Learned how to fake the piano very well. I loved
It was a
playing.
wonderful movie.
You didn't learn how to play piano?
No.
Fooled me. Jeez,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was awesome. Hello.
Hi, my name is Audrey, and I just wanted to tell you that it's an honor to be spending my birthday today with
Hey,
you.
happy birthday, Audrey.
Happy birthday, Audrey. Thank you.
And from one fashionista to another, I just wanted to know, did you get to keep any of the costumes?
No.
No?
No, and I don't think in my neighborhood it would have gone away. And plus I live in Southern California, so those costumes were so hot.
I heard they were very heavy.
Oh,
too. Yeah.
well, they wanted Kardashians to look big, so they used furniture pad material. Essentially. Yeah, it was awful.
But I love the fashion of it.
Thank
Thank you very much.
Very colorful.
That is so excited to have Andrew Robinson wish you a happy 29th birthday.
Yeah. Oh, happy 29th birthday. Hi.
So, I have a question. I don't know if we've actually had this one, but specifically, so Garak has actually had more than one pet, not shown to us in the series, but talked about.
You mean the Regnar?
And then you also had in the book.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah, and then there was something about a Cardassian lemur at some point later in life where he got punished for having it. I think in one of the episodes, but specifically Mila as well.
I don't remember that guy.
Yeah.
But,
Mila from the book is what I'm
right.
thinking of. And when you were mentioning your wife before, it made me think of during the Holocaust and stuff like that. So this was during when Garak was at school. Obviously, a very dangerous situation when how much a pet was not allowed, the risks he took to keep her, and all the things he learned from her. And I find it very interesting when in the book somebody takes the time to give a character a pet, particularly if that pet is going to be a huge problem if other characters find out. And I was wondering if you had thoughts of like why you did that, or if it was just something that felt natural.
You see, it's kind of a Native American thing, where a creature like that becomes your guide, and the Regnar for Garak was this kind of spirit. It was a spirit, creature, and who told him how he could survive. I mean, that's one of my favorite things in the book is that his relation, because that was his relationship before he had any other kinds of relationships.
Yeah, for me it was like this is very much a piece of humanity, right? Like
Good call.
this is me keeping my sanity in this place
Right.
where I can't trust anybody.
No, of course.
Because I was like, if it was as simple as learning from it, he could have left it after learning the lesson, but instead he kept it with them. And I
But
love
then
that
he let
choice
it
in the
go.
book. And then to keep
Once
it
the
safe.
lesson was learned, he was
Yeah.
able to let the spirit guide go.
Yeah, and the fact that he was like, I'm not going to let something happen to it. I am going to take the choice. Like, this companionship meant something to me, but the right thing to do is to know when to let them go.
Yeah.
I thought that was a really fascinating conclusion in the book. So, yeah, I was wondering if it was just I like having a pet, or if it was indeed something different.
No,
Very
it's,
cool.
yeah, no. Thank you.
Thank you.
So you said you didn't keep any of the outfits. Did you get to keep anything from the set? And
No.
if you didn't, what would you have liked to have taken home?
Nah, I'm not a collector. And you know, it's so funny. I was reading about how hoarding,
My mother was
chronic hoarding is, and it's considered, like now a psychological problem with from 2 to 5% of the population. Not just hoarding stuff. I mean, billionaires, people who hoard money. That's it's like
Elon,
it's amazing. No, but the funny thing happened on the very last day of the show. The last shot, people descended on, especially the promenade, with screwdriver. Renee was amazing. Renee had this goddamn screwdriver, and he was prying shit off, fake doorbells and stuff like that. And
So his house looks like Deep Space Nine.
I don't know what the hell he did with it. But the thing is, about Renee is that he probably, he auctioned them off and stuff like that because he contributed enormous amounts of money to, Doctors Without Borders.
Oh, wow.
Enormous
True
amounts.
humanitarian.
And Renee would go up to a doctor, would find where he would do a convention, and he would get the cash, and then he would find, an office for Doctors Without Borders, and he would come with a paper bag and walk into the office and said, okay, here, and plop, several $1,000s on the desk. Exactly.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
One thing I heard really quick is that you actually have claustrophobia.
Yeah.
And one of the most epic stories I was told, and I would like to get this verified, is you actually dealt with that issue when you were trying to escape from the...
Well, I don't think I dealt with it.
Well, you also had a fever.
I suffered from it.
Suffered,
when they put me in that situation.
You also had the flu, like had a high fever, is that true?
Yeah. Oh, well, that was actually worse.
Yeah.
In that costume, and the makeup, and everything, and then having
to deal with that.
Yeah. Right.
It's
the price of greatness.
Yeah. There it is. Come on. Don't be shy. I'm not.
Hi.
Hi.
So, one of the things that strikes me about Garak, and one of the things that I like the most about Garak as a character, is he really feels like one of the most pragmatic, actors, like agents within DS9, willing to do what is necessary, but always being held back by the philosophies of other people, in the Federation. And I know.
And also by the Cardassians, which is why they got rid of him, because he was too much of an improviser.
Yeah, but that kind of brings me to an idea that especially with Cisco, with the I can live with it, kind of taking direction in some way from what Garak would have done at that point, and you should do this. This is much a more expedited way to solve the problem. Why won't you do this? And how the Federation has its own kind of principles and standards. But I'm kind of curious if Garak had the reins of the S9 for a day at a particular point in the show. What do you think he would have been best suited to take care of? Because he got a bit of power there, being able to direct.
Well, that would never have happened because of the Federation. There's no way that would have happened. But he later, the thing is that he never. I don't think there was a whole. When I wrote Stitch in Time, he was alone. He was alone rebuilding his own life. And then other people went, ahead and wrote about Garak, especially Una. What's Una's last name?
McCormick.
Thank you. And and then he became a politician and the president and so forth. But I wouldn't have gone in that direction because he was a loner from beginning to end. That was him. He was just working on his own agenda, And, you know, and people like that are dangerous. You know, that was his, if there was a chink in his armor, that was it. He was not, you know, he was never going to be a member of the team. Although at the end of the series, he is a member of the team.
Absolutely.
You know? Yeah.
Cut off the head and the body will die. He was very right, freeing Kardashian.
That's right.
Big fan.
That's right, man.
Yeah, there we go. Thank you. Great question. Gentlemen.
Hi, thank you for being here. I wanted to ask you, is there anything that Garak didn't do that you would have liked to have seen him do?
No, not really.
Aside from baseball.
Yeah, aside from yeah, that's true. That hurt me. No matter. No, not really. Because, and you know, the thing is, I can't tell you how grateful I was for how beautifully he was written. And the thing is, that's one of the great things that I mentioned yesterday, that when you do a character like that, a running character in any show, and the writers fall in love with the character,
right,
and then they write, and also they love what I was doing with it too,
killing it,
and they just support you and give you. So it's like it was, in a way, it was the most complete acting experience I've ever had.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next story.
Two quick questions. One, what point in your life do you first begin acting? And then the second question, you keep mentioning you didn't know if you were to come back after the first episode. At what point did you know I'm here for good?
No, I never. At what point did I know when I was going to be on the show for good? Never, because I kept on expecting to get a script delivered to me where Garak is wasted. where they get rid of him because he was just too, you know, I mean, I thought there's no way he was going to last. The fact that he lasted through the end of the series and survived still blows my mind. I thought he would be the ideal kind of character to finally get it, you know, but he never did. And in terms of when I wanted to become an actor, I think, you know, I was a weird kid because I lived on, until I was taken away to the school, which I was at 10 years old, I lived on the streets. I mean, I had a place, you know, occasionally I had places to sleep, but I really was, my mother and I were street people for the most part. And one of the few things that gave me comfort was I learned how to sneak into movies in Hartford, Connecticut. And Hartford at the time, like a lot of cities, had a lot of theaters when there was, you know, very little television, and movies was a thing. And I learned how to sneak into all these movies, and so I would spend whenever I could, I would spend my time in the movies. And it's not that I had the conscious thought, well, I want to be an actor. On the contrary, I thought that those people lived on another planet. All those people on the big screen in these movies were something else. They lived somewhere else. And I remember one time I was on the street in Hartford, and I was walking in the North End. And in those days, the North End was a very rugged part of Hartford. And but there was this theater there, a legitimate theater. Where they showed plays and you know, road shows would come to this theater called the Parsons, and there was a drugstore next door to the Parsons, and I'm walking by, and I see this guy come out of the theater and walk into the drugstore, and it's this actor, and his name, he was in all these film noir. I loved, and I still do, loved film noir. I saw all kinds of film noir, and he always played, you know, the sort of like, you know, the rich boy and you know, the prick who people want to kill or, you know, or beat up and stuff like that. And a lovely actor. And he walks out of the theater and into the drugstore, and I'm with my mother, and I ran into without thinking, and I wasn't even 10 years old. I was probably 8 or 9 years old. I mean, that's how weird I was. And I ran into the drugstore after him. And I don't know how this happened. I didn't know what an autograph was. But somehow I knew what an autograph was.
There you go.
And I went up to him and said, "Can I have your autograph?" And he looked at me. He was like an actor on the road. He'd probably been doing a tour of whatever play he was in.
Yeah.
So he had a beard. And he was like, didn't want to be bothered. And my mother came in, but the guy gave me, Jeffrey Lynn gave me his autograph. And I wish I still had it, but long ago. But and then it wasn't until I was 11, I think 11, I was sent away to the school, which is the best thing that ever happened to me. And the school it was a church industrial school in Rhode Island. And it run by the Episcopal Charities of New England. But it was an amazing school for all these kids like myself, all these kids who were whatever. But it had this drama program that was run by this man, Alvin Gould. And it was a powerhouse acting program that won all, and this was a tiny school too. And it won all kinds of, drama festivals in New England and stuff like that. And when I started getting involved with that, that's what I got, the bug bit me.
Unfortunately, we're going to wrap up. Please stop by his table and ask. I'm so sorry because we do have to wrap up. But thank you so much.
I'm so long-winded.
No, you're great. Thank you, everybody. Be sure to stop by your booth and stop by our booth. And hello, media back there. Thank you so much.
And catch Andrew Robinson on Spider-Man Noir.